After Rodney Hinton zeroed in with bloodlust on an innocent sheriff's deputy named Larry Henderson, many race hustlers throughout the country have been rubbing their solitary pairs of brain cells together to find some way to get him off the hook. Some happen to stumble on a meth-fueled description by a witness who claimed to have seen an old lady driving Rodney's car. It didn't take long for race hustler Richard Taylor to jump all over that.
An eyewitness has come forth to confirm what I told you earlier this week, that Rodney Hinton was not the driver of the vehicle that killed the deputy in Cincinnati, Ohio.
You don't say. Oh my gosh. We've got to check this out.
I want y'all to take a look at this right here. This is a Facebook post. And you see LaShawn Hankerson. And she is the eyewitness who saw it. You see her reply, "I promise to God."
I'll go ahead and read this for you since he kind of struggles in the old reading department. But it says,
"I promise to God, I made a post and everything. The man was unconscious in the passenger seat and it was an older lady driving. They kept asking who the driver was. She kept hysterically crying and falling out like she was in shock. She did that. They are trying to do that man in. I literally tried to get him out of the car. He was stuck and knocked clean out.
Airbags and all. Wow, man, that sounds pretty ferocious. But let's be clear here. She's saying that the man was stuck inside the car. Notice she doesn't tell you which seat. That is a little minor detail if you're going to be trying to accuse somebody of not being the culprit who drove their vehicle into a sheriff's deputy. And notice she doesn't mention where the old lady was. Which seat was she riding in? Now that's kind of important too. She does say they kept asking who the driver was. She kept hysterically crying. So if she's in the driver's seat, why would they be asking her who's the driver? And if he's in the driver's seat, the same question would be kind of stupid. So we have a little bit of a dilemma here. Let's listen in more.
And I'm going to show you another couple of posts from that same Facebook thread. Now, remember last week I told you that I received some inside information from a couple of sources that said there was a lady driving that vehicle that killed the deputy in Cincinnati after Rodney Hinton Jr. left the police department. Now, this post also pokes holes in the DA's, the police, the sheriff's theory in their timeline that they released to the public after indicting him on the charges and saying that they were going to seek.
Now remember, this is all going to poke holes in the DA's claims that Rodney Hinton was driving. Not so fast. Hang loose.
The death penalty for our young brother. Now, after LaShawn made this post, the girl asked her, "Look, why don't you go down there and tell them what you saw?" And this is her response.
"No, love Tila, if they aren't using cameras for evidence, they sure
aren't going to listen to a black woman with a record."
So she didn't tell the police what she saw. I don't know about you, but I think this is going to make it very difficult to poke holes in the DA's case. I mean, the whole notion that they would not listen to a black woman because she has a record is ludicrous. They're looking for eyewitnesses wherever they can find them. And remember, according to her, she was on the scene. So they're going to interview her. And she doesn't mention that. She would have had to have refused to answer their questions, but she doesn't answer. And the fact that she goes to the media, the social media, before she tells the police is going to wipe out her testimony. That's easy to knock down if you're a prosecutor. Why didn't you tell the police what you saw? And, well, I have a record, is not going to cut it on the stand. You still could have went and told them what you saw. That didn't prevent you from doing so. You're not wanted by the police. You only had a record, so you were not facing any penalties for coming forward. So it goes on here.
"It was several of us right there that witnessed the shit."
Gee, then there should be plenty of witness testimony, right? There's none. None of these people came forward, and she knows it.
"They didn't even care about dude in the car."
That's because they have a sheriff's deputy laying on the ground who's dying. The dude in the car is fine. He's walking around, right? So why would they care about him? So they didn't care about the dude in the car.
Me and one other lady was trying to help him,
but not the sheriff's deputy.
They didn't care about the black dude, only the officer.
So what was it about Rodney Hinton that required your assistance? Well, who knows? So this is just further evidence that whenever race hustlers use the term witness, it means someone who never saw a damn thing and who's making shit up because they's racist. Like this brainiac describing what he saw in Frisco, Texas when Karmelo Anthony stabbed Austin Metcalf to death.
They grabbed this man and they tried to punch on dude. Dude went in his bag and what they went to try to jump this dude and punch on this dude, man. And he protected himself, dude.
So he's claiming that both boys assaulted Karmelo Anthony, despite the fact that when Karmelo turned himself in, he said,
I tried to tell him not to touch me, but he touched me.
He never mentioned anything about both boys touching him. And none of the witnesses there claimed to have seen both boys assaulting Karmelo Anthony. But according to him, they punch on this dude.
That's what happened. Yeah. It wasn't just one. It was both of them, bro. Austin, the dude that got unalive, and his brother physically went over there to intentionally. It's not to the point that he brought a knife. For one, it wasn't on school property. The school is leased.
Yes, it was. Kirkendall Stadium is owned by the district. It is not owned by the community.
5 to 10 miles away. It was community track meet, bruh.
No, it wasn't. It was a school district track meet. So on those two accounts, he's wrong. So was he even there? Almost certainly not. Never minding the fact that he has the brains of a bullfrog. His testimony doesn't jibe with anybody else's testimony. It doesn't jibe with the testimony provided by the dude he's trying to protect. Now, witnesses would never lie, right? Listen to this one. This is concerning Jee McMillan. He was a young kid who was shot at a Family Dollar store in Gulfport, Mississippi.
So you say you saw what happened?
I saw the cop shoot the guy.
Did he have a gun on him?
I did not see a gun on him.
And the baby was coming out the store. Jaheim was coming out the store.
He was coming out of the store with his
and
hands
my other
up.
son, with his hands up?
With his hands up.
He was coming out of the store with his hands up. We can test that real easily. Here's the footage. Yeah, it sure looks like he's coming out of the store with his hands up. And what's that he's carrying? 2 guns. The lady didn't see it at all. And in fact, she wasn't there. She heard about what the other witnesses were saying and then claimed that she saw it as well. And why? She wants to help get a cop convicted. The most notorious victim of witness lying is Officer Darren Wilson. After he shot Michael Brown in Ferguson, Missouri, all of these people came out of the woodwork to tell the police what they saw. And a lot of them just plain lied. Don't believe me? Well, let's start with witness 113, a 31-year-old black female. Witness 113 stated that Wilson fired shots into Brown's back as he lay flat on his stomach on the ground. Oh my God, that's an execution. When the FBI told witness 113 that the autopsy results and other evidence were inconsistent with her account, she admitted that she, what? Lied. She explained to the FBI that you gotta live the life to know it, and stated that she feared offering an account contrary to the narrative reported to the media that Brown held his hands up in surrender. But that's just one witness. I mean, come on. Hang loose. Witness 119 is a 15-year-old black male. He initially told SLCPD detectives that he witnessed the shooting. However, he later recanted, telling federal agents and prosecutors that he lied to SLCPD detectives because he just wanted to be involved in the investigation, which is code for he wanted to get the white cop convicted. Witness 119 reiterated the same thing to county prosecutors and did not testify before the county grand jury. But that was a teenager, a black teenager. Well, here's a 23-year-old black female, witness 125. She initially told law enforcement that she witnessed the shooting, but later recanted, claiming that she wanted to be involved from the outset and therefore lied to investigators. She testified that she did not, in fact, witness any part of the incident, but claimed she did so because she wanted to be part of something, convicting a white cop. She claimed that a friend in the community told her to tell the SLCPD and the FBI what her boyfriend saw, but to claim it as her own. The trouble is, the boyfriend didn't see it either. He just refused to admit that he lied. But those were youngsters. I mean, come on. You can't trust a kid. Well, here's a 48-year-old black male. Witness 142 briefly spoke to SLCPD detectives within hours of the shooting incident and denied that he witnessed the shooting. Okay, he's being honest. However, SLCPD and the FBI then followed up with witness 142 after SLCPD detectives learned that witness 142 called into an Atlanta-based podcast on August 11th, 2014, where he described the shootings. Witness 142 then testified before the county grand jury. Witness 142 admitted that on the podcast, he stated that Brown's head was inside the SUV, but claimed that he lied, though he could offer no explanation for doing so. He recalled saying that Wilson shot Brown as Brown was running away, which we know did not happen. That was impossible, though he admitted to law enforcement that he did not see that happen. Witness 142 clarified that he thought Wilson was shooting at Brown because everything happened in a matter of seconds. Yeah, when things happen in a matter of seconds, you just assume that somebody's shooting somebody. He also acknowledged that he told the podcast announcer that he saw Brown stop, turn around, and come back at Wilson, which is actually true. However, he told the SLCPD detective and the FBI agent that he only assumed that Brown did those things, based on Brown's body facing west in the street. Witness 142 told law enforcement that he stayed outside in the street for hours after the shooting, hearing people say that Brown had his hands up. However, he did not see Brown with his hands up. Witness 142. So do you see now the problem when you trust witnesses, especially in politically charged incidences? You have a white cop being run down by a black male. People are going to try to get the perpetrator off. They don't care if he's guilty or not. It's a good idea to quit falling for this crap. And I have one more message. If you did not see what happened, don't tell people that you did. Don't call into podcasts and describe what happened. They will track you down and they're going to ask you about that. And you can't refuse to take the stand. They'll subpoena you and they'll put you on the stand, and you're going to have to either admit you were lying or you're going to have to lie to the court. This is a really dumb thing to do. You know, how about just being honest for the first time in your life? Like my video and subscribe to my channel.